It's really a tough issue, and it's as simple as it seems. It's not always that simple. When Mr. Gibbons first emailed me, and my assistant was telling me that, he was trying to get a hold of me, I looked into the problem, and I actually went down to the police department, and I said to our chief, I'm like, what in the world are we taking 2-hour parking in that area for, Roach is closed? And sure as God made apples, he had his radio on, and there was a call. I don't know if it was to Edison, but it was Edison. It was to the street when somebody on Edison complaining about the car parked in front of their home for over 2 hours. So that does happen. When we were in the back before, I talked to all the commissioners and the mayor about what could we do to resolve this problem. Because if we were to go to a sticker program or some type of permit to change an ordinance, it would take the full vote of the board in order to do that. We kind of agreed in talking to the chief, and I'll chime in here too, is that maybe the first step we should take before we rush into anything is to start rescinding the 2-hour parking on these streets while there isn't an issue. So we came up with, if you had over 51% of the residents on any given street that wanted the 2-hour parking eliminated and lifted, we could do that. And, we could get some of your input on that. Chief, do you want to join in?
No. As I think the director said, I would recommend to leave it up to the people that live on each individual street. If the consensus is that they don't want the prohibition from parking, then the board could consider lifting it based on the consensus of each block. If the block does want the 2-hour prohibition, then it would remain in those streets. And I believe that's before my time, when they first enacted the bans in those areas of the Roach property were based on what the people wanted, I believe. I believe they came to the board with consensus on each street asking for 2-hour parking due to the overflow from the Roach property. So it only makes sense to go back, to ask the people again if they still want it, and on each street, if they do want it, leave it, and if they don't, we can consider rescinding each street that they don't want. I think that would be the simplest resolution, and if it does become an issue when the property is redeveloped, the board can re-examine it and take into consideration any new changes to the property.
So as I understand it, Chief, you're asking the residents to basically get a petition with 51% of the homeowners in agreement with rescinding the 2-hour parking, and then we can take action on it.
Yes.
I think the best thing to do, if you have a comment or something, to really come forward, because we really want to hear, what you have to say about what some of our ideas are.
So, again, Paul Roger with 70 Edison Avenue. That's the only solution, is to come up with a 51% vote to rescind the 2-hour parking. I think that would be a mistake, because you're going to open up a school, we're going to have problems with commuters parking on the street, which is a bus stop on High Street and on Kingsland. I think Brian's idea with the permits is the best solution. If not, come up with an electronic system. Scan the plate. This guy lives at 70 Edison Avenue. Why bother giving him a ticket? We're in the 21st century.
Well, Chief, what do you think? You can stay there for 1 second. What do you think about scanning plates, and how would that work? How would it affect our principal?
Well, it definitely would be, resource, would add to our resources. Currently, the way the ordinance reads, even if the officer knows that the car belongs there, that's not in the ordinance, the car is still in violation. So,
Okay, so why can't you change the ordinance instead of rescinding the 2-hour parking requirement?
well,
We
again,
had this again in a year or two.
again, I will leave it up to see what the people on the block, the consensus is. That's how it was enacted. So I would agree that, as many people are complaining that want it, there's also people that are calling to say they don't want cars on the street. So we have to kind of come up with a way and hear from everybody on the block to say what is the consensus of the street want.
So if we come up with a 51% vote on getting resident permits, is that a viable solution? Or is that totally off the table?
If Commissioners, we discussed in the back, and you guys could join in at any time, is that before we went to a permit parking situation, we'd rather try like a pilot program on that street, see how it works out, and then if, at the end of the day, if that's what we have to do to solve the problem, yeah, you know, then we could discuss that.
So the pilot would be to eliminate the 2-hour parking first?
No, well, the pilot program would be
Just experience.
well, let me just finish. The pilot program would be to petition your neighbors, come up with a 51% vote to say that you don't want the 2-hour parking there. See how that goes. If it's problematic to you, okay, then we would come back here. But again, you know, it's not something that, as the director of public safety, I could just change and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. That would be a board vote. To change any ordinance, we need the board to vote on that and to get that through. So
I foresee to eliminate the problem with reenacting the 2-hour parking by coming up with a petition of 51% to buying a permit to feed at towns, larger towns, cities.
So I'm not even concerned with a fee at this point or anything like that. The thing that concerns me, just like the lady came up to the mic and said, okay, now if you have a permit, you know, and you know, she has a big family, now you have, you know, 20 people that are coming to a kid's birthday party or whatever. Now what stops them from getting it there?
Make a phone call.
Yeah, you know what, it's,
Then you go into the 21st century.
I mean, that,
Plate number such and such called at this particular time, and
it's not, let me say this to you, it's not so much of getting into the 21st century. You know, the thing is that all that stuff takes time and resources on our police department. And, you know, we have 70 police officers here total now. When I first got elected, we only had 60. And sometimes there's only 5 working at any given time. So, you know, I don't want to go through the whole thing, but you have the best.
Yeah, but eliminates.
Yeah, you know, it's a very difficult thing just to have the police say, okay, we're going to be able to police this issue. We're a permanent solution. If it is the permit parking, if it is lifting the 2-hour parking, I think that would better serve the people of the streets and for our police department not to tie men up on just that. You know, because when you think about it, it's not just a problem in the Northwest. It's also a problem down on Washington Avenue. You know, there's a lot of spots where commuters are parking and jumping on buses, and, you know, I can tell you get a lot of complaints all over town. You know,
So I think it would be a mistake to rescind it.
it would be a mistake to rescind the 2-hour
I
parking.
think it would be a mistake to rescind it.
Well, listen, you know what, I'm glad you're coming up because we do need to have this discussion this way. We can go back as a board and say, okay, this is what the people said, this is what they want, and then we have to react to that. So I agree, I'm glad you're talking.
Could I get something?
Thank you very much.
Because I was here when we enacted that 2-hour parking prohibition, and it was because we were petitioned by the folks who lived on Edison and Oakley and Emily and all those smaller blocks there. And the problem at the time was we had the employees from Hoffman Roche parking here, and we also had commuters parking here who were taking the bus going into the city all day long. So the residents came to the Board of Commissioners at the time and asked us to do something about it. At the time, Commissioner Recchio was in charge of public safety, came up with 2-hour parking prohibition. Now, quite frankly, it was supposed to be a temporary solution at the time, which just carried over. Personally, I have a problem, okay, with the stickers, and I'm going to tell you why. Because any ordinance changes that we make will not only affect your area, but the entire town. Okay, what we'd like to do. And again, we don't know how long it's going to take Roche to be redeveloped. We know there's the medical school here. We know that the purchasers, prison redevelopment, all right, is going to build out that property. So in the meantime, personally, I don't think it's fair that you have a restriction placed on you because of where you live that the rest of us don't have. I don't have a 2-hour parking restriction on my block. I can park there all day long. I can't park overnight, and I'm still in favor of no overnight parking because I think that becomes a safety issue. But I think what the director is proposing, all right, is a good first step. I think doing it as a pilot on a block-by-block basis could in fact be beneficial. If we need to go back and tweak it, then so be it. And ultimately, when the Bush property is totally redeveloped, if we need to take another look, all right, because of a problem that may come back, well, then we'll address it at that point. But I think it's important that we do it together. We're not here to just pontificate and tell you what's best for you. I mean, I have a daughter that lives on Nutley, all right? I know they're tight blocks. If you have parking on both sides of the street and we have snow on the street and we need to get a plow through, sometimes it's difficult. The stickers could be a fine solution for your area, but when we make that application town-wide, it may not be ideal. And I can see some other issues that could come into play for us. And again, it's something for you to consider. I think the reason he's proposing 51% of the folks on the block, being in favor of lifting the parking prohibition is because we want to satisfy as many people as possible. We're not here to punish anyone or to tell you, how to live your life and where to park your car other than overnight.
Anthony Verselli, 78 Edison. So just to expand on your point, I know a lot of the neighbors from Edison came to you guys, or whoever was here at the time.
Send us emails, texts, and you forward them over to.
So at the time they came and they instituted the 2-hour parking, and Edison experienced the problem that we're having right now then. And they came and wanted parking permits then, and they were told no. So now we're back to this point, and now we're talking about removing the 2-hour parking and then bringing it back, which will then be back in the same problem that we're at right now.
I'm not saying we're going to bring it back, but what I said was that once the development
We'll look
is
at it.
completed, we need to revisit it and take a look and see what works best for everyone.
So we're talking about a pilot program. We've already, if you can have a pilot program of stickers for Edison Ave, if we have a consensus on the block. We already have a pilot program for this 2-hour parking.
Again, the stickers
So
would
if you
work
brought this-
for your area, but that application town-wide is not
It
ideal.
doesn't have to be townwide. We're talking about a pilot program for Edison Avenue, where we just have stickers for a program that was instituted for Edison Avenue and other neighbors over here. Why not just, we've been down this road.
Well, let me ask you a question. What happens to that young lady's property in the back when she has a party?
Well, there's-
there.
Most people have parties on Saturdays and Sundays, right?
Oh, but
With 2-hour parking, it's coming up Sunday, so that solves that. And then Saturday, you can just rescind it. I don't think anybody here has a problem on Saturday, it's Monday, and Friday.
Yeah, but if it's something that we have to enforce, it'll be enforced. But I'm just saying, it's like Commissioner Tucci's talking about. We're here to listen tonight, and then we're going to go back, because that's how we take the board vote to get that passed. But I have to tell you, myself, I'm a fan of baby steps, because when you jump into things, like Commissioner Tucci said, that might be good for Edison Avenue. If it's not good for the other side of town, it leads to other things and other issues. Look.
So let's just take a baby step.
Let me just,
We need to walk now. We've already had the 2-hour parking. And we had this issue where people on the block wanted parking permits, and they were told no then. Now we're talking about removing the 2-hour parking, and then revisiting it down the road for 2-hour parking, and then we'll be back to square one.
but what's the problem with removing the 2-hour parking? What do you think the issue is?
We want a 2-hour parking,
Why?
in case people come, or there's
Who's coming?
there's a bus stop in the corner.
I mean,
We have a New Jersey Transit stop right there on the